city. And this is not new here. I mean, this has been going on for some time, but if we look across the country, what is happening? Citizens are starting to take over the running and ownership of towns now. And it's not an easy task, it's not a silver bullet, there's no one formula, but what we're seeing is less moaning, less destructive activism, although it's still there, and more constructive, let's do this ourselves if we have to. There's precedent in law that says when you start to do the job of the municipalities or the metros, you can build them. And we're seeing that happening in Harrismith, we're seeing it happening in a number of towns across the country, especially in smaller municipalities. And I'll talk to you a little bit about what OUTA is doing in that space to empower and enable organized civil society to become stronger. And it's quite an exciting project. But again, while we're here, is, as Peter said, to give a report back. Last time Julius was here, he gives his apologies, he couldn't make it. Stefanie Fick, who's our head of legal, couldn't make it either. We couldn't miss not having her in Victoria at the courts today with Dudumyeni, finally taking the stand on the SAA matter. Excuse me, it's been a case long in the making, and for a number of years, and a whole month now in court with witnesses, and we needed to be there fielding a lot of the questions. We also have recently, I don't know if you've seen in the news, taken the public protector, laid charges against her, and that's just 2 or 3 of a number of the projects. We have about 70 projects open at the moment. So Andrea Korf is a legal projects manager based in Gauteng, and we've tasked her because if we don't put full-time assistants and people on these projects, nothing really happens. It's all about people. So thanks, Andrea. You know, her workload is quite hectic up in Gauteng with R2, with the long distance tolling, the concessionaires. There are many other big projects, and so we're doing this a bit remotely. We have committed to, we have an office here, we have a parliamentary office. We don't want to take their eye off the ball in dealing with local matters. We have to appoint our full-time team here, and it's a lot more difficult than we thought. But we really have to put the right person into this role. It's a mix of understanding legal matters, certainly local Municipal Management Act, as well as you know, activism, mobilization, handling media. It's a special animal that we have to have, and it's one that has to stand up for citizens' rights. So let's just give you some feedback. Last time we were here, we gave a commitment to participate. We gave a commitment to assist, and let's get down to business on the issues here. Now there are many issues, and it's hard to choose the right ones. But we've been asked by Milnerton to tackle this serious one because it not only deals with pollution, it deals with the acts that are being transgressed, it deals with the poor from Joe Slovo, the communities that are just being blamed for the feces that is flowing into the stormwater and finding its way into rivers. And this blame game is just an excuse. There's a responsibility that has to happen. You can't blame the past, you can't blame you know, previous municipalities, previous managers, whatever. You have to, as the municipality, deal with the issue. And another matter which is quite serious, also polluting the ocean, is on the camp space site of the city and with the Marine Reserve, and we're going to talk to you a bit about that. We've met with the team. It's a bit longer term. It's possibly quite a big legal project, a legal matter that we have to attend to. We've got to focus on what the issues are there. Andrea's sifting through that, and we've met with the Camp Spade team. And we just want to report back. I think there's been quite a lot of traction and a lot that has happened on the Milnerton matter. And Andrea will give you some feedback there. Caroline, you might want to chip in, but it's quite exciting to see that people at various levels now, not just the city, but the province, the Green Scorpions are now participating. The tree has been shaken, and there's activism both in the public as well as a realization of what has to be done. But there's still a dragging of the feet, excuses, and no commitment to the sincerity and the severity and the urgency that is required to tackle this matter. So we're going to talk about that. But just to let you know that we are apolitical. We have to remain apolitical. The sad thing is that we operate in a space where you're tackling administration, and administration in South Africa in local government is politically charged. It's a political game, and we keep getting accused that we are DA backed. I mean, we did receive R1 million 6 years ago in Gauteng on the ETOL matter when we were about to close the case. In hindsight, it was an exact science. We shouldn't have, but when you are owed R4 million and the case is about to be closed, a very strong case, I think we would have taken money from the ANC or anybody for that at the time. But that's less than the 0.5% of our revenue to date. And the real issue is that we need to stop relying, and we have stopped relying on funding from big business. That was our first 3 years. Government leans heavily on big business. They ran away, left us high and dry. And we have to mean something to the citizen. It's the man in the street that we have to be relevant to. So we are crowdfunded by tens of thousands of people, mainly still Gauteng based. We see some traction in the Western Cape, but we see it across the country as people start to realize our work is related to tackling maladministration and corruption without fear or favor. And the way we do it, and why we do it differently to other civil action movements, is we're not a typical NGO. We don't just expose, because the problem with this country is it's headlines today, it's gone tomorrow, and people continue to behave and transgress the laws. So what we've done very differently is when we changed away from the tolling matter into the organization undoing tax abuse, and the mandate's very clear, it's maladministration and abuse and corrupt use of your taxes, that we go after the individuals in their personal capacity. We do so through a 5-step methodology. We start out by investigating. We get the facts. If it meets our mandate, so before we even get there, although there's normally a bit of pre-investigation, we make sure that it's a substantive matter within our mandate. And then we get the facts, we get the investigators on board. Once we have the facts and it is substantive, it's real, there's either smoking gun stuff or enough there for us to move on, then we engage with the powers. We need to always give the opportunity for the people we're accusing to answer. And sometimes on a few of our projects, it's worked, it's stopped, the project's ended there because there has been a realization there's trouble here, there's trouble coming their way, and they've changed their behavior and they give commitments. And that's great when that happens. It's always nice that it stops there, if it can, when you engage with the past. But most of the time they ignore us, they poo-poo the matter, they give us excuses, and we see they're just stringing us along. Big one that they've been doing that for a while with us now is the National Lottery Commission, and that's when we start exposing. We expose through the media. We've got a very strong media in this country. We've got some really good media, social media we use responsibly, and we get the story out there, because once the narrative starts, the pain starts to be felt in a number of ways. But this is where we start to differ from other NGOs and civil activist movements. We decided in 2016 to introduce our own legal capacity. We employed an advocate and one legal resource at that time. We have now 6 legal resources and an advocate. And we project manage each case properly. And what that does is that we start to now gather the evidence and build a strong case, because when you litigate, when you lay charges with strong evidence, is where the real pain is felt. And we go after the people in their individual capacity. So that's why we decided to have this legal team, because we're able to build cases quickly and cheaply. And not a cheap case, but a very formidable case without having to spend millions. We have learned, and painfully so, that the big law just love to get involved, and they get extremely rich, and they shouldn't be getting rich out of civil activism. So we build cases fast. We try and get our senior counsel to do work at either pro bono or at low rates, and we use small law firms, but we do all the work, so we keep their costs low as well. We can't take everything to court because that's also costly. We've got reserves, but we've got to mindfully watch those reserves over time. But what we do is take strong evidence and we lay charges. We start putting the police under pressure to do their job. We put psycho to test. We put URBA, the auditing bodies, to do their jobs and also hold people to account. And so we bring the pressure to bear from many sides. And while we're doing that, where necessary, we mobilize. Mobilize is we have to protest from time to time. And I saw you did that quite effectively at the Wooden Bridge announcements and discussions that were happening. And what that does as well, it puts it in the authorities' face. You stand outside their offices with placards, it's embarrassing. The press come, they want to know what's happening, you give the story, passerbys want to know, and the bridge banner brigades that we put out on bridges, we bring the messages to the people in many ways. So the formula has evolved. It's not an exact science, we're learning all the time. Our strategy is evolving, and so we're here in the Western Cape now. We have to appoint our couple of people, but we are doing it remotely and with the help of a number of people on the ground here. And I think we've come a long way. Certainly in the last 3 to 4 or 5 months, we've seen, as I said earlier on, people sitting up. So Andrea, maybe you want to just take the team through. I think Andrea's been lumped with us in a very short space of time. She's got up to speed. There's been some quite exciting developments. So we'll start off on the Milnerton one.
Thank you very much, Wayne. First of all, I'd just like to start off by saying thank you very much for each and every one of you who participated to thus far, especially Caroline, Peter, and there's a lot of you that sit in your ratepayers associations, ordinary citizens. Thank you so much. Without your guys' intervention and the knowledge, and like Wayne said, when we go through the investigation phase, without your knowledge or your facts, we won't be able to do the job that we do. So first of all, thank you very much for everybody that assisted us with that. Just to bring you up to speed of what happened with regards to Milnerton specifically, is so we have done our independent water tests. So we started on the 23rd of January and we are continuing bi-weekly with it. Thank you, Greg, for the test that you do. So we have received our latest results, and thus now we can see and plot a trend of what is going on with the pollution specifically. Now, I will explain that a little bit later, but on our comms and our marketing strategy, that will form part of our comms and marketing, and that will go out next week, just so you guys are also aware of that. But first of all, so we started with our 5-step methodologies. Number 1, we investigated, we've done our independent water tests, we got the results, then we decided to engage with the city. We wrote a letter to the city on the 7th of February, requesting them to respond, or we requested them to engage with us. Because that is the second step in our methodology, is to engage. Now, to date, we only received acknowledgements of receipt, but what we can gather from their responses is that they are sitting up and they are taking this matter seriously now, because it's been passed from one department to the other department, everybody's scrambling, which is a good sign, because it means that we are hot on their heels. So we haven't received a response, but from our insiders and from some of our people inside the municipality, they said that they will endeavor to respond by the end of this week. So hopefully next week we'll be able to comment on a response or engage with the city on that matter. And after we wrote the letter of engagement, we released one press release, so that is part of the expose component, saying that we have done this, OUTA has taken this on together with the residents of Milnerton in order to ask for answers, in order to ask for relief. So we did publish our first press release on that, and I must say, I think it's a very good turnout after that. What happened was that province felt the need to intervene. Now, I'm not going to sit here and take all the credit, because it's definitely not just OUTA, it's with constant pressure on the city, constant pressure from people like Caroline, trying to intervene, trying to get answers, that province actually decided, first of all, they had a site visit on the 13th of February, And then earlier this week, they had a press conference addressing these issues. Now, that is a very, very good sign if you see province promising to intervene. Now, we did release another press release yesterday morning. While we commended province for intervening, now we believe it's time for accountability. And I'm sure all of you can agree that we are tired and sick and tired of promises and people intervening, but there's no action. There's no accountability. And at this stage, we are absolutely clear on the fact that if you intervene and when you intervene, people are accountable either negligently or deliberately, we don't know, but they are accountable and you should take them to task. So that is our standpoint from this side. So that's the exposed to press releases. The mobilize or the comms and marketing strategy, we've already started last week with a couple of snippets or WhatsApp messages, just putting our feelers out, just putting the name out there. But we are going to approach it more aggressively going forward. We already have a lead generation, we have awareness campaigns that we have started as of yesterday. We are going to push ahead with this, and as I said, we are also going to release our water results. Now, ideally what we want to do in the next couple of weeks is either engage with the city, and we also want to engage with the province of maybe partnering with the Green Scorpions in order for us to gain access to the Potsdam wastewater and treatment works where we've identified is the main source of the pollution. So like Wayne also said is, although the city tries to blame informal settlements in terms of they are misusing the sewage system, at the end of the day, it's the city's responsibility to make sure that there is adequate resources for them to use. That is the city's responsibility. Exactly. And it's not your responsibility or my responsibility. We pay our taxes, we expect from the city to do better. And I think that is the getaway that we want to take here, is we expect them to do better. Not for themselves, but for us. And so yeah, that is what we're going to do. And that is where we are with regards to Milnerton. It is a work in process. We are going to turn up the heat exponentially now with regards to what province has said and also what the city has said. Province has asked the city to produce an action plan within 21 days. And we are calling for that action plan, number one, to be made public. Number two, the people responsible for implementing those actions. Number three, the timelines applicable for when they're going to implement those actions. And then we are calling for public oversight over those actions in order for us to also keep them accountable with what they say. I think the biggest concern from a lot of people that I've spoken to is not necessarily the long-term fix, because we know that they are planning to upgrade the wastewater treatment plant at Potsdam, but the emergency that it has created now is an interim fix or a short-term solutions. Not just one, but a couple of them. Just to give you a heads up, what we intend on doing is when we engage with the city, we want to present them with a document detailing short-term solutions, but it's short-term solutions from the community together with OUTA, coming with practical solutions to fix the problem. And that is where we're going to call on every single one of you to help us to put that together. That when we say, these are the problems and this is how you're going to fix it, this is realistic, this is within a budget, there's no more excuses, we are not going to accept any more excuses. So that is Milnerton. Thank you.
So let's, I mean, that's what Andrea is saying is it's a plan, and it's about putting their feet to the fire, and it's about being consistent on that, and not allowing them to give us excuses, not allowing them to pass the buck. We have to keep the spotlight on what the real issue is. We know that it's not an overnight fix, but they cannot continue to say, well, it's a budget issue or it's a longer term fix. You have to provide short-term solutions. Now, whether that's X amount of chemical toilets to deal with the pollution coming out of the townships, whether it's emergency spend that has to happen on the Potsdam sewage system so that it gets cleaned up and fixed, whatever it is, you know, don't come with the excuses that this is about a year of procurement procurement process that we have to follow. You know, we've been waiting years here. You guys have been highlighting this for a number of years, and you've just been pushed from pillar to post and dragged along and strung along. And I'm afraid you cannot allow that to happen anymore. So you have to now up the ante. And that's what we talk about: mobilization, media, and just bringing the heat on this issue consistently and all the time.